Welcome to a flipped lesson on hunter-gatherers. The major question I want you to think about as you're going through this information is, how do people adapt to their environments? Even today, how do you adapt to your environment when the seasons change or when there's inclement or bad weather? And we're going to try to connect those experiences that we have to these experiences that people had, millions of years ago. The Paleolithic Age is known as the Old Stone Age, and it began about 2.5 million years ago and lasted until around 8000 BC. If you take a look down here at this timeline, you can see the arrow, right? That shows where we're talking about when we're talking about the Paleolithic Age. Modern age really isn't even on this timeline yet. We have to go all the way over here to the right to get to where we are today. During the Paleolithic Age, people were nomads who traveled in groups of about 20 to 30 members to find food. Everything about these people's lives was focused on finding food. As you'll recall from your vocabulary, nomads were people who moved around a lot, but basically only to find food. These nomads survived by hunting buffalo, bison, wild goats, reindeer, and other animals, by fishing if they were near the coast, and by gathering wild nuts, berries, fruit, grains, and green plants. Men hunted large animals by tracking them. First, they used clubs or drove animals off cliffs, but later they developed traps and weapons. And if you look at the picture here, the man is holding a club, which would have been used to kind of hit animals in the head as part of the hunting process. Here's where you see some difference in gender roles, right? Women stayed close to the camp, looked after children, and gathered berries, nuts, and grains. However, evidence suggests equal relationships between men and women. It wasn't that hunting was a more masculine job. It was that population growth was really important to these groups. So women, by looking after the children, were kind of, increasing the population of the groups and therefore making them stronger. The methods and tools Paleolithic people used to hunt and gather food were part of their culture. Paleolithic people developed more complex tools over time. They started with sticks and stones, tree branches, and they later developed tools from a hard stone called flint. By the end of the Paleolithic Age, people made smaller and sharper tools. This technology drove the development of more advanced farming tools. It's funny, it's not what you would think of when you hear the term technology, right? You're picturing your iPhone or your big screen TV. But technology is really the development of any more tools that are more complicated than what came before them. So going from a stick or a stone or a tree branch to finding a better stone and sharpening it and being able to develop something that takes a little more time to create is an example of advanced technology. Paleolithic people living in cold climates saw protection in available natural shelters such as caves. They eventually learned to make their own shelter out of animal skins, brush, and wood or animal bones. So you can see this adapting to their environment. You can see this throughout a lot of the information here. Life became less difficult once they discovered how to make fire. Fire provided light, scared away animals, and cooked food. Cooked food had a lot of health benefits over food that was raw. As you can imagine today, if you were eating raw meat, you probably would be very sick. Archaeologists believe that early humans learned to use fire by rubbing two pieces of wood together. That is fire. Early people communicated through sounds and physical gestures. An example of a physical gesture is like a handshake, although I don't think that was something that was common during ancient times. But really, any hand movement or facial expression or body movement would be a physical gesture. Ancient people developed a spoken language throughout time, and it constantly grew and changed. Early people also expressed themselves through cave art. One of the most famous ones is over here on the side. It was found in Lascaux, France. And you can see it shows something that is very central to their life. Animals that are the kinds that they would have hunted. Remember, everything for Paleolithic people is about finding food and making sure that food is available for them, because that's what they needed to survive. So you can see why that would be represented in their art as well. The Ice Ages were long periods of extreme cold that affected all of Earth, as the name would suggest. Thick sheets of ice moved across parts of Europe, Asia, and North America. Water levels of the ocean were lowered to expose a land bridge, which allowed people to travel from Asia into North America. This is the first settlers to where you currently live, the United States, were kind of coming over that land bridge. Humans had to adapt or change to survive cold weather. They enriched their diets with fat, made warm clothing using animal furs, and used fire to stay warm. The Paleolithic age will end with kind of the end of the ice ages and the development of agriculture, which we'll see in your next lesson.